Greetings and salutations. My name is OJ as always, and welcome back to another episode of the Deadlockathon, a series of videos where I go over every single character in Valve's not so secret hidden game, Deadlock. I'll be going in alphabetical order from Abrams to Yamato. I'll be covering their lore, their personality, their gameplay and abilities, as well as their designs. Please do keep in mind that everything I talk about is subject to change at a later date, as Deadlock is still actively, in development. And if you wish to play Deadlock for yourself, I'll throw my Steam name up on screen, and all you need to do is subscribe, and I'll give you a code. That's a really bad plug, but who knows, it seems to have worked as of late, so I'm gonna keep doing the plug. But with that said, our object of obsession for today is a dead man walking. The real king of snowballing. That being none other than Kelvin. Now, as I like to do in all of these videos that I've done so far, I would like to start by covering his lore, as in reading his in-game background and mentioning any other little tidbits and bits of information that we know about Kelvin. But with that said, his in-game background reads as such. A famed adventuring scientist, Kelvin made it his life's mission to explore and understand the unknowable. So naturally, when rumours surfaced regarding an 8th astral gate hidden in the Arctic, Kelvin couldn't build an expedition team fast enough. Assembling the brightest minds of his generation, Kelvin and his team set forth with much fanfare. They never returned. A year and a half later, the frozen body of Kelvin was found by a fishing trawler, his corpse clutching a rock etched with glowing runes. The crew chipped away at the ice, looking to get a closer look at the body, and were shocked when Kelvin opened his eyes. They checked his vital, there was no pulse. They sought to bandage his open wounds. There was no blood. And yet, impossibly, Kelvin was alive. Having no memory of what happened on the expedition, Kelvin is looking for answers. Just as a point of reference, for those that don't know what an astral gate is, they're basically rips in space and time that open up gateways to other dimensions. So for example, there is an astral gate that opened up in New York that obliterated Dynamo's body, which is why he is now that sort of robotic figure that he is now. There is also an astral gate that leads to Ixia, which is where people such as Infernus and Abrams are from. Though Infernus isn't actually from Ixia, he was New York born and raised, but he is an Ixian, so his parents were from Ixia. There's also an astral gate in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, right where the Bermuda Triangle is, which has unleashed forces such as the Loch Ness Monster into the world. So all of your cryptids that are deep sea related probably came from that astral gate in the middle of the ocean, including Viscus. Viscus, I believe, is from there, I think. Maybe, I don't know. We'll get to Viscus when we get to Viscus. He's way further down the line. But speaking of Kelvin and his lore specifically, I do find it quite interesting that he is a literal dead man walking. I really want to call the video that, but I'm not sure how they feel about me putting dead in. Actually, no, then again, every single time I've made a Dead by Daylight video, I put dead in the... maybe I will. You'll find out what I title the video. You'll be able to see it before I do. But either way, speaking more of Kelvin and his background, I like that he is kind of this cliche adventurer. You know, like those really cheesy sort of... how do you explain it? Like, there's that sort of archetype of a cheesy explorer who travels the world and sees all these wonderful sights. Kelvin kind of fits into that category. However, there is a lot more to him that is a little bit hidden, though still speaking of that sort of adventurer stereotype, he does actually have quite the boastful personality, as per the wiki. A lot of his voice line, he does speak quite highly of himself and highly of his adventures and the books he's written about his adventures. A lot of characters are actually quite fond of him and his books. People like Dynamo, Michelle, Mo and Krill, Ivy, they are, or Ivy's brother, are all, fans of Kelvin's adventures. And speaking of someone who isn't a fan of Kelvin, Seven. Now, these two are oddly linked. I will mention it again once we get to Seven, but Seven has a one-sided rivalry with Kelvin for reasons we don't know of currently. Kelvin mentions that Seven seems familiar. Additionally, both of them have interest on researching astral gates, and while being healed by Kelvin, Seven is reminded of, quote-unquote, old times. A likely possibility is that 7 is Kelvin's old friend Edric, who vanished. Quote unquote again, we're going to put little quote marks around it. Lady Geist has a line between the two of them, which I will play for us in a moment, saying that Edric caused a scene at one of Kelvin's fundraisers. And this is supported by one of 7's lines to Kelvin that mirrors one of Kelvin's lines about Edric. Plus, we say old friend, I think there was a little bit more going on there. There's a line between 7 and Dynamo where the both of them say, like 7 criticizes Dynamo for being bestowed the great gift of all of his power and you're throwing it away for nothing. Dynamo replies with, easy words to say when you've never loved someone. And then 7 replies with, no, easy words to say when you have. I don't know, guys. Do you think those two were, do you think there was a little bit of love between the two of them, Kelvin and 7? Do you think there was something here? I do, and I think that would make it more interesting. Can you believe it, guys? Deadlock has doomed Yowie before the games even actually come out. This is incredible. This is generational stuff right here. Between 2 old men, one of them being literally an undead revenant and the other one being like the embodiment of electricity. Wow, we're breaking new grounds here. I do like the idea that the two of them have like this sort of broken apart relationship, or it might not even be a relationship. It might just be like one-sided feelings on 7's behalf where he feels, what's it called? Unrequited love? That's the one. I learnt that when I was studying Romeo and Juliet. See, I paid attention in my classes and you should too. Even though I say that like as if most of my viewers aren't like 18 and over. Well, actually, a lot of you would probably be in like university or college for American viewers. So yeah, pay attention in your classes. You never know when it might help you in a random YouTube video you make like 5 years down the line or something. But yeah, like there is a weird thing between 7 and Kelvin, and it is probably the most interesting thing about the both of them. I really like their dynamic between the two of them. Unfortunately, they don't actually have that many quotes like between the two of them, like interactions, and if they do have them, they have 3 like many other characters, but all of theirs are quite short. Like Kelvin has an interaction with McGinnis where they talk about like, oh, carrying the team on their backs. And that dialogue line's like, there's like 7 back and forth responses for between the two of them. But all of 7's ones are like, oh, there is a line between 2 of them, which is just Kelvin says something, 7 replies, and that's it. Like, come on, guys. I know 7 hates him, but can we get a little bit more? I want to know more. I'm hungry for more information on the two of them. But as I mentioned earlier, I am going to play the voice line between Lady Geist and Kelvin about Edric. I would also like to point out that Lady Geist has a connection to Kelvin, as she was the one that funded his expedition. You know, the one that got him killed, and who knows what happened to the rest of them. But yeah, with that said, I would like to play the interaction between Kelvin and Lady Geist, and that said interaction sounds as such.
Whatever happened to your friend that caused a scene at your fundraiser? His name was Edgar, something like that?
Edric.
Yes, Edric.
I don't know. I tried to find him when I returned to New York, but it's like he's vanished.
Well, he was rather rude, so I say good riddance.
I wish I could share that sentiment.
Oh, Kelvin. Little does he know that Edric didn't vanish. He's just an incredibly maniacal electric monster person of doom. I really like Lady Geist. I cannot wait to talk about her. I know she's the next video, and I won't have to wait long, but man, Lady Geist, yeah! But still, speaking of Kelvin, he does have some other interactions with 7. 7, through some voice lines, believes that Kelvin has a bigger ego than Lash. Lash? You mean that Lash? You mean Mr. I'm the Lash. I'm the best dude to ever do anything. That Lash? Bigger ego than I don't know. All right, 7. So I sometimes I hear what you're saying. Sometimes I don't hear what you're saying. But yeah, Kelvin is an interesting character. I cannot wait just personally to see where they go with him, because obviously he has no memory of what happened on the expedition. There's a lot of stuff between him and 7. He's like a bunch of questions that I cannot wait to see the answers to. Because I know at some point, from the way they've kind of written a lot of the dialogue and a lot of the lore, it does seem like this game will actually have a evolving story as it exists once it, you know, like fully releases. Like with the voice lines that I mentioned in Ivy's video where it alludes to one of the Mendozas being killed. Like, that's a big thing. That would, like, fundamentally change Ivy's character and how she interacts with people. That's something that may actually happen. And Kelvin is another example. I feel like at some point, we do need to find the answers to a lot of the... Like, every character has something they're searching for or questions they're looking to have answered. And I feel like at some point in Deadlock's lifespan, we may actually just get these answers. Like, if this game does have an evolving story, as I kind of hope it does. And I would be intrigued to know what happened on that expedition. But on the same hand, that is part of, you know, the fun of it, not knowing. As I've said in a few videos before, a lot of the fun of horror and games and stories is the not knowing. If we just never find out what happens on the expedition, that may be for the better. Like, maybe Kelvin just never finds his answer, but then lives his life anew, kind of revived, per se. I don't know. I mentioned this a lot in the Doorman video, how I said that I don't actually really want to know what the Doorman is, because he is more interesting and more scary when we don't know exactly what he is, or what he may look like, because he's obviously like some weird eldritch god that is best buddies with the patrons. Like, he probably has a true form that's absolutely horrific to the human mind, but I don't want to see it, because the fear of what that may look like and what my imagination conjures is scarier. But yeah, I think Kelvin is an interesting character. I like a lot of his interactions. I mean, here's another tiny little tidbit before we end off this segment. Kelvin is one of Paradox's targets, which, if you don't understand what that means, Paradox steals shit from rich people. A lot of shit from rich people. And Paradox is more a group, less a person, per se. But yeah, I like Kelvin quite a bit. He does have this, we don't know who his voice actor is, and I probably should have mentioned this before I played the voice line between him, but, between him and Lady Geist, but he has kind of like a Scandinavian accent. I don't necessarily, I can't pin down what his accent is. It's like almost Austrian or something. It's kind of hard to determine like what his accent is. I don't know what to think of it, though I do enjoy a lot of his lines. You know, as I said, he's got quite a boastful personality. He speaks and kind of sounds like those stereotypical old adventurers who journey into worlds unknown and all of that sort of lovely fun shit. But yeah, I think Kelvin's quite the fun character. Notice how I haven't really had anything bad to say about any character since Billy? Wow. Well, then again, actually, Billy is so annoying and unbelievably infuriating, and that was the point. So technically, he is a good character, and he is a good character. I will give him that. I just don't really like him very much. But yeah, every single character in this game so far, I've just had positive. I am Mr. Sunshine and Rainbows. I have a big smile on my face when I'm recording these videos because I love talking about this game. This game's so interesting. I cannot wait for it to actually like develop further. But yeah, anyways, I'm going off track. I'm going up, down, all around, blah, blah, blah. But I like Kelvin. I like his sort of story. I like his interactions with Seven. And I cannot wait to see where they go with stuff like that. I want to know what the relationship between him and Seven is at some point in time. Whether that be estranged lovers, unrequited love, or maybe truly just old friends who hate each other. But with all of that said, we are now going to move on to his gameplay and his abilities. Please do keep in mind that when I record this section, I am using OBS for gameplay and audio at the same time, so if my voice sounds slightly different, that's why. But with that said, we now move on to, as I said, his gameplay and his abilities. Right, so here we are in the ever so helpful and lovely training range to talk about Kelvin's gameplay. And that starts with his gun, which is known as Expedition's End. That's actually, that's a really good name for a gun. That goes really hard. Sorry, I didn't even know it was called that. That goes hard as shit. This is a relatively standard weapon. I've said this before in a few videos, like, oh, the gun's very standard, and for the most part, a lot of the weapons in Deadlock are pretty standard. It is a you know, relatively slow firing assault rifle. What else is there to really say about it? It does decent in lane. It is a relatively okay damage dealer. You can do gun builds for Kelvin. There is one here. This is the one that I've used before, and he's okay. He's pretty okay at doing, you know, gun builds. The projectiles are a bit slower than most. A lot of characters in this game, no one in this game has a truly hit scan weapon outside of, say, whoops, misclick, outside of Bebop. But then again, even Bebop can't just immediately pull out his gun and shoot a soul because it has the wind up time before you can shoot, and it has a, you know, limited range. His weapon is the only one that is hit scan in quotation marks. But Kelvin's bullet travel time is a bit slower than most. At least it feels like it. It's a relatively standard weapon. It's an assault rifle, shoots relatively slow, all things considered. It's decent in lane, decent for dealing damage against heroes. It's whatever. It literally is it's just here to exist. At least that's how I feel about his gun. You can do gun builds, as I said, but I personally wouldn't really say that Kelvin is a very gun-focused character. I'll talk more on it in a minute, and I have mentioned him a few other videos. I'm sure, say, anyone that watched the Ivy video from 2 days ago would know. But yeah, like, Kelvin's gun is fine. It does its job, secures souls, kills minions, the usual. But that said, his first ability is the reason why I called him the king of snowballing earlier, because for those that don't understand, snowballing is the term related to a character getting stronger and stronger across a game. So for example, Drifter, I called him the king of snowballing. That was the title of the video on Drifter. That's because he, if he gets going, gets unbelievably strong to the point that you can't stop him, like a snowball rolling down a hill, mostly due to this ability, right? Someone in the comments pointed out that, actually, Kelvin is the real king of snowballing. I'm not making fun of him, because they are technically right. And that's because of this first ability, known as the Frost Grenade. It has a 6.5 meter radius. If it has multiple charges, there is a 7-second cooldown between charges. It has a 20-second cooldown base, and it does 74 damage at base, has a negative 40% movement speed penalty, a 4-second slow duration, and it reduces the stamina regen of the enemy it hits by 40%. And as per its description, you throw a grenade that explodes in a cloud of freezing ice, damaging and reducing the move speed of enemies. Now, the reason they said he was the king of snowballing is because this thing looks like a snowball. You throw it, it explodes, and it is literally just a small white orb that turns into a cloud of snow. He is truly the king of snowballing, because he's the only character in the game with a snowball. But yeah, this is a very good ability. Very, very solid. It does decent damage. Obviously the slow is quite potent, and reducing the stamina regen is something that I didn't know it did, but that is quite strong. A lot of characters in this game will build for, like, say, extra stamina through, well, extra stamina, stamina mastery. Someone like, say, who's a good character? Calico can benefit a lot from the extra stamina. But now, if you hit her with the Frost Grenade, not only is she slowed, which, you know, like, he can kind of counter both movement options. So when it comes to movement, characters can either go for extra stamina or sprint boosts, which, you know, sprint boost? I meant sprint boost. Boots, words, where it increases your sprint speed. But if you have yet negative movement speed penalty, then you can't really sprint very quickly. And if you have the lower stamina regen, you can't really dash away and get away with it. So he can kind of counter both movement techniques with just one ability. But as an actual ability, it's got a relatively decent radius, all things considered. It does decent damage, and of course, the main affliction of it is, you know, the slow. But on its first upgrade, you get an extra charge of the ability, and on its second upgrade, Frost Grenade now heals 80 health to friendly targets. This does scale with Spirit, as does the damage of this ability. And on its third upgrade, you get an extra 160 damage, bringing it to 234 from 74. Now, as I mentioned in the Ivy video, and I've mentioned it a few times, Kelvin is a pseudo support. No character in this game is truly just a support. Just flat out right a support. The closest we have is like Paige, but even then, the damage she can do with the dragon and the captivating it's just, she can do some stupid damage if you let her. But someone like Ivy is a pseudo support. She can be played as a support through Watcher's Covenant, but also does decent damage through gun builds. Kelvin is also a pseudo support because of the Frost Grenade heal. You will not believe how good this heal can be late in game. As you saw in the beginning of this video, I had B-roll footage playing in the background. If I remember rightly, there was a Victor on my team. I could be thinking of a different game I played. Either way, I played a game where there was a Victor on the team. And in the late game, as Victors do, he lost a lot of health. He loses a lot of health a lot of the time. And because of a build that I was using, that being this one, the Heal Nade build, man, Victor just didn't die. I was just throwing grenades at him, and he was just living like 5v1s. Because, like, the heal on this grenade, when it's scaled up with the spirit, holy shit. You can, like, full heal teammates. Like, you can be you can extend team fights for so long. And it's really good, like, the heal on it is really good when you're, like, fighting in a team fight. Because, obviously, enemies and your allies will kind of be grouped together. So if you can kind of sit back a little bit, and you're able to throw your grenade into, you know, the midst of the team fight, you'll be healing your allies and damaging your enemies whilst applying, you know, the slow down by 40% and the negative stamina regen. Like, Kelvin can be a nasty support. He can be very, very annoying because he can just, like, this thing has ridiculous range. Like, look at this curve. Like, that's actually, you just, like, he can throw these for miles. Like, let's just go, as part of the demonstration, we go on top of this building. Like, look how far you can throw this thing. I can hit, obviously I wouldn't be able to hit it or damage it, but like, I can throw this thing miles away. Like, Kelvin can just sit on a rooftop and ages away from the actual team fight and just lob grenades. And then everyone's getting damaged because remember, the healing and damage scales with your spirit. So you're getting extra damage and extra healing if you go into a spirit build, which, you know, I would argue is probably just the best default way to play as Kelvin. Like, the Frost Grenade is really, really strong. Like, heal and damage simultaneously. I don't think there's any other abilities in the game that kind of do that, right? Like, Paige doesn't have any healing. She just has the barrier. Does any other ability heal and damage simultaneously? Like, for an ally, not like Stone Form on Ivy. It does heal her and damage enemies simultaneously. Like, but is there any abilities that heal and damage simultaneously for your allies? I don't think there is. I trying to rack my brain. I know every character's kit. Yeah, there's no one else that really can do this. Kelvin kind of has that niche secured. But yeah, Frost Grenade is easily, in my opinion, his best ability because it's very easy to use. Its cooldown is surprisingly short as well for all of the value, like 20 seconds. Like, hello? You're getting debuffs galore, heal galore, damage galore. Like, why is this thing on a 20-second cooldown? By the way, 20-second base. You can lower that even further with stuff like Transcendent or Superior cooldown and Transcendent cooldown. Like, hello? He's going to be doing a lot. I like his snowballs. The snowballs are very strong, very fun to use as well. There's kind of like something satisfying about just kind of lobbing them and the explosion effect. I don't know. Something about him just kind of clicks with me. But yeah, Frost Grenade easily probably his best ability. But with that said, we move on to his second ability, known as Ice Path. Kelvin creates a floating trail of ice and snow that grants movement bonuses to him and his allies. Kelvin gains 60% slow resistance for the duration. Enemies can also walk on the floating trail. You can press shift and control to travel up and or down while on the ice path. It has an 8-second duration, a 46-second cooldown. You get an extra 2 meters per second movement speed at base and an extra 2 meters per second sprint speed at base. And the duration of the actual ice trail, so how long the trail itself will last, is 18 seconds, while you only get to use the ability for 8 seconds. This ability is very good as well. Like, as you can see here, you'll kind of like start to skate on an ice path, and it will leave this trail behind you that your teammates can actually jump on and run. And as you'll see, like, say I just run this distance, right? Like, do I still have the extra sprint speed? I think you just get the extra sprint speed for being like near it. Hold on, wait, what? Where am I getting that extra sprint speed from? Like, so look, let's just an example. If I walk here, yeah, decent enough, right? And then you use the ice path, and we line it up with the same amount of distance. Good speed, right? That's you can see the difference in how quickly I'm able to go across. But as it says, you're able to control it going up or down. So as you can see, if I hold down shift, I'm able to kind of like pitch myself upwards. You can also control it sort of by looking or moving your camera around. And he kind of has just free form movement around the map. Like there's nothing that can really stop Kelvin once he's on the ice path. And you can just go wherever you so please. Like, I mean, that's kind of strong, right? Like, say you're on the actual map, you can just kind of, you know, go upwards and go anywhere you so please. This is a very good movement ability. That's what I'm trying to say. However, you do have to keep in mind that your enemies can follow you along this ice path. So do remember that if you try to use this to escape, you will still have to, you know, you can't just use it and get away scot-free. They will follow you. And I can guarantee they will follow you on the path. It's happened to me more than enough times. I should also mention that I feel like they should probably say this in the actual description. But when moving around, you are actually able to attack. Though, of course, say by shooting, you do slow yourself down. But yeah, you're able to attack whilst using the ice path, which allows Kelvin to, as I said earlier with the snowballs, really get the range out of them. Like, you can obviously... I want to get rid of these ice paths so damn bad. But, like, you can obviously, like, use the ice path, and as you're flying around, you can kind of throw snowballs and maybe even throw a snowball. It's a very good ability, and it does merge very well with the rest of his kit. I'll talk about the ice beam in a minute. But yeah, ice path is solid. It's a very good movement ability, but of course you do have to remember that, you know, your teammates or your enemies can follow you on it. Speaking of teammates, though, they can also use the extra sprint speed and move speed as well. So you can actually use it as a sort of escape tool for your team. Say your team's in a team fight and you're kind of losing. If you kind of come into their backline, which admittedly I'd argue is where Kelvin really should be played if you're doing like what I do with support and stuff, you can actually sort of run away from the team fight and leave the ice path for your team. If you can obviously, you know, maneuver it well, you could theoretically save your team from a bad team fight, or save your team just in general. Like, this thing is very good in lane as well, because you're obviously able to get sort of pseudo high ground without having to jump up on the bridge and make yourself exposed. And as I said, the grenades are good for long range. Right. But on its first upgrade, you get an extra 4 meters per second to the sprint speed bonus, so that brings it up to 6 meters per second. On the second upgrade, you reduce the cooldown to 31 seconds from 46. And on its third upgrade, whilst active, you gain 1 spirit power per meter of ice path trail created, for a max of 55 spirit power. I believe that's only active once while the actual thingy is active. I'm not sure how to... Oh no, you can actually see it in the sort of left-hand side. You see where this right here, this shows the extra spirit power I've gotten from that ice trail. Look, you'll notice that I've now lost it. If I start creating it, it will begin to rise up, which only furthers the point that Kelvin is better as a spirit damage dealer. Like, because, you know, you're getting extra spirit for the ice path that you create, which only further increases your damage of your abilities and the healing of your grenade, etc, etc. But yeah, it's a very solid ability. Admittedly, its cooldown is quite long, so do try and use it sparingly. Like, use it when you can get value out of it, whether that be, you know, free damage or helping a teammate escape from a bad fight, etc, etc. But with that said, we move on to his third ability, known as the Arctic Beam. You shoot freezing cold energy out in front of you, damaging targets and progressively reducing their movement and fire rate the longer you sustain the beam on them. You have reduced move speed while using the Arctic Beam. The beam may also claim souls. It has a 5-second duration, a 25-second cooldown, it does 46 damage per second, the max negative penalty for move speed is minus 40%, the max negative fire rate penalty is minus 40% as well. The time to get to the max debuff is 2 seconds, the beam's length is 25 meters, and the debuff linger duration is 2 seconds. Now this looks as such. you'll shoot a beam out of your out of the end of your gun, and you also get like the sort of white circle around you to show how far the beam actually can go, though it's obviously a bit hard to tell how high it can go like vertically. This ability is very strong, especially in lane. As it said, it can actually reclaim souls, which makes it easy for Kelvin in lane to kind of get the currency he needs. Like, say for example, there's a few minions who are on low health, and you literally can just turn on the beam and, you know, kill them and very easily secure the souls, because the Arctic beam is, say it with me, it's actually hit scan. Like, it is actually hit scan. No matter where you're looking, it will actually hit the target of wherever you are looking. So it's very good at securing souls, because you can just kill a minion, and as the soul's floating up before it can be claimed, you can just track it with a beam. And I'm not kidding, unless they are the sharpest shooter in all of the cursed apple, they are not hitting it if you are beaming it. They are not going to take the soul from you if you are beaming it. But to show what it does to actual enemies, you can kind of see the buildup of ice on them, as well as the little icon above their head, and they'll have this sort of icy effect, and that will prevent them, you know, from move. It's a good tool to kind of stop enemies from getting away, and if they are, you know, pushing you. Because if they're pushing you, like say for example, you're in lane and Haze is trying to push. What is she gonna do when she is minus 40% fire rate? She lives and breathes off of actually, you know, shooting a lot of bullets really quickly. So if you're just slowing her down like all hell and making it so she can barely shoot 2 bullets a second, like, she can't do anything. And of course you could also use it to push, because if you're pushing, you know, a Haze and you slow her down as she's trying to run away and she can't shoot back, you see the strength of the ability. And yeah, it's very strong, very helpful as well, because of course, like the rest of his kit, it applies, you know, well, not the rest of his kit, you know what I mean? It applies debuffs, which makes him even better as a support, because he's able to disrupt the enemy team to allow his teammates to sort of, you know, get the kills. Of course, this thing can do some serious damage because it scales with his spirit, so do keep that in mind. And of course, abilities or items can be applied to it as well, so stuff like, you know, extra range and stuff like that, or superior duration. You can increase, you know, how long you are able to shoot the beam, which is, you know, quite strong. But on its first upgrade, you reduce the cooldown by 7 seconds, bringing it down to 18 seconds from 25. On its second upgrade, you increase its damage to 37, or by 37 per second, bringing it to about 284, at least that's what it says on my screen. And on its third upgrade, you fire 2 additional Arctic beams towards enemies within 10 meters of the last target hit. Now, to show what that last one looks like, I will just spawn in some enemy Kelvins, just to, you know, take myself out, I suppose. And if you shoot the beam, it will kind of chain to multiple enemies simultaneously, which even further supports the idea of being this disruptive, supportive force. Because now you're able to apply the negative movement speed penalty, the negative fire rate penalty to multiple enemies, which can ruin a team fight. Like, if you're able to do that, you can seriously screw over like 50% of the cast. Drifter with reduced fire rate can really suffer. Like, I know he does a lot of like gun damage, but if he gets hit with a negative fire rate boost or fire rate penalty, man, his damage can just plummet. Same goes for, as I mentioned earlier, Haze. Her damage can really plummet. Vindicta, her damage can plummet with the reduced fire rate. There's a lot of characters that benefit from reduced fire rate, or no, suffer from reduced fire rate. Or at 7. 7's another one, because Power Surge can do ridiculous damage if done correctly, or in a, you know, if they can aim, unlike myself. So you can seriously disrupt, like, I mean, it connects to 3 people. 3 people with lowered movement speed and fire rate? Like, that's half their team. That will do damage that you can, and it, of course, it does damage. And if you build into it, you see my point. You can do some serious nasty stuff with the beam. A lot of Kelvin's kit's just so damn good. Like, and by the way, as I mentioned earlier, when you're on the ice path, you can use the beam. So you can kind of just float around their team and just beam them. And it's going to be pretty hard to stop you from doing that, because, of course, he gets the sort of extra movement speed whilst on this. Like, you can kind of just run around them and just beam them, and you can see my horrible aim in real time. It's not like the damage is even split, which is interesting. Like, you would think for an ability like that, they would like, oh, fire 2 additional Arctic beams, but with a reduced damage. But no, it's just doing the same damage between all 3 of them, which is so dumb. But yeah, the Arctic beam is very strong. But moving on to his third ability, it is known as Frozen Shelter. It is a 10-meter range, a 5.5 second duration, and an 150 second cooldown. Kelvin freezes the air around him, creating an impenetrable dome around himself. While in the dome, allies rapidly regenerate health and enemies are slowed. Objectives become invulnerable and frozen under the Frozen Shelter. The health regen is 90 per second, and, well, actually, no, it just says 90 health regen. It doesn't even say per second or anything. And the negative movement speed penalty is minus 35%. And the ability looks as such. You press the button, and bang, you've got this sort of dome around you that cannot be shot out of. Wait, hold on. Can you shoot out of it? Why am I able to shoot out the top of it? Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, you cannot shoot out of it or into it. It is completely indestructible. Actually, nothing can penetrate it. Nothing at all. Nothing in the world of worlds can penetrate the bubble, which I've always felt was a bit much. A completely impenetrable? I feel like it should be like, I feel like it should just have like a fat HP. Like, it should just have like really high HP. So in a certain circumstance, you could break the bubble and kind of screw over Kelvin before he can, like, heal his team and stuff. But no, it's indestructible. You can't break it. So if you trap someone in there who's on like low health, you can just beam them to death and they can't literally do anything about it. You can use it, of course, as I've mentioned before, as I feel like the Frozen Shelter is the best example of what I mean when I say he is a pseudo support. Because on the one hand, you could use this bubble to protect your entire team. You can block all damage from coming to them. They all regen health in there, and you know, you can't be hurt. Everyone just basically gets a full heal. Remember, when you're in the bubble, you could also just throw a few frost grenades at your feet, so even more healing, right? You could basically just give the team a reset in the middle of a team fight. Kind of insane. But on the same hand, if you were going for, you know, damage on Kelvin, you can trap someone in there with you and kill them with the beam or the grenades. Like, he can be a disruptive force or a, you know, a team player. Hell, you could even do both at the same time. You could capture a few enemies in the bubble along with a few of your teammates, so your teammates are being actively healed and the enemies are hindered whilst being locked into the Thunderdome or the Froze Ice Dome, whatever you wish to call it, with you and your Arctic Beam, which, by the way, remember, it chains to multiple enemies. So if you capture multiple enemies in there, they're going to get screwed. And both of these movement speed penalties stack. So minus 35% from the bubble and minus 40% from the beam, which that's minus 75%. And oh, what else applies a movement speed penalty? Oh, frost grenade. That stacks on top of it. Wow, they actually got minus 100% movement speed penalty. Yeah, stupid shit. Really, really dumb. But very good. Very good ability. I think you can kind of yeah. Just to show... Where the hell did the dummy go? What? Did you... I think we just saw, like, analog horror in real time right there. What? Why the... I am actually flabbergasted. I didn't expect that. Why? He just disappeared. All I wanted to do was show Kelvin's getting frozen. Why the hell did you disappear out of existence? Wow, this video is cursed. This is Seven's fault. I blame him. Yeah, you can also just kind of hold the ability to show like where the dome is going to be, and you can cancel it by shooting. Sorry, I'm really taken aback by that dummy just disappearing. On its first upgrade, you reduce enemies' fire rate when within the dome by minus 40%. Oh, minus 80% lowered fire rate. Wow, Haze really can't do anything, huh? On its second upgrade, you reduce its cooldown by 45 seconds, bringing it to 105. And on the third upgrade, you get an extra 50 health regen, bringing it to 140. And your health regen in the bubble Now Scales with spirit power. Yeah, Scales with spirit power. Yes, stupid. If your team is in the bubble and you're doing what I do, where you go like, support Kelvin, it's just a full heal. I don't think anything can stop that. Kelvin's kit is just so strong. Like I really like Kelvin's kit. It all just kind of, it's insane how well designed these kits are. They all just kind of like merge into one another. Like every ability serves a purpose. Every ability works with one another. It's very rare that there is a character where the abilities just don't work in tandem. Like even the newest character, someone like Billy, every bit of his kit just all meshes together. Like the rising ram, knock people up, that bash down brings them down, it does big damage. You can pop blasted and just light melee people in their face and just shoot them with God knows how much weapon damage. And then the chain just allows you to bring people closer to you to do this all again. Like his entire kit works. Just everyone's kit just kind of works. It all just fits together as like nice puzzle pieces. I love the way these characters' kits are designed. But yeah, Kelvin is very strong. He's very disruptive and can be probably the best support in the game. His raw healing is just insanely high because of obviously scaling with, spirit, and not to mention there are literally items that, heal people as well. So he can be countered by stuff like toxic bullets and stuff that would, naturally counter healing, but I actually just think he just does too much healing to even be countered. I think unless the entire team is running anti-heal, it will be a struggle to stop him from healing people. But with his gameplay all done and discussed, I would like to talk about his design. Now, Kelvin, like a few other characters in this game, such as Bebop and Yamato, is a bit of a relic of the past. Not so much as those two previously mentioned characters, but Kelvin is very much a relic of what this game once was. That being, for those that don't know, a game known as Neon Prime. Same game, same kind of principles, but the art direction for Neon Prime was vastly different. It was much more futuristic, far more Japanese inspired, very cyberpunk-esque, before, the switch to Deadlock's noir, occult 1950s look. And Kelvin, I will pop it up on screen what his design looked like in Neon Prime. Kelvin literally has the same face, like the same hair, same beard, same face as his Neon Prime design. But unlike that design, he has this, Arctic look to him, which obviously makes a lot of sense considering he was, in the Arctic before he died and he basically got revived in the Arctic as well. He's got like those what do you call them, like ice climbing shoes. They're very furry and fluffy. They have obviously like the spikes at the front to allow people to sort of dig into the walls. His clothes are very kind of padded out. Like his legs are probably tiny underneath there, but like they are very wide clothes, very sort of big. He has a very big outfit. It's very like a giant coat, very thick. That's the word, thick. His thick trousers, thick gloves, a big thick coat. He has this obviously like fur all over his right, like no, that's not right. That's my right, his left. His left arm, fur collar around him. I will admit it is a bit peculiar that he kind of just has his face out. I personally would have expected like, I don't know, like a beanie on his head to keep his head and ears warm or something. Or maybe even like, those Arctic goggles that they wear. I don't know how to explain what those are, but yeah, he has a very Arctic, he almost looks like he's wearing like a Yeti's pelt, which, knowing Deadlock, I'm sure a Yeti exists. As I said earlier, way earlier, the Loch Ness Monster came from a rift in the deep. Who's to say that the Yeti, there is actually like an astral gate in the Arctic and that's where the Yeti came from and stuff like that. On his back though, he has this giant rock. This rock is probably it's definitely what's keeping him alive. We have no idea what this rock actually is. I'm not even sure what the symbols on this thing is, but it kind of has this, obviously, as you can see, it's glowing with this sort of blue energy every sort of interval, at specified intervals. But he's kind of carrying this big, massive rock on his back at all times with, this bag that's kind of got like a map on the top of it, and it's got a few like, are those dog tags? I think they're dog tags. Or at least like poorly modeled dog tags. If those were dog tags, that'd be a really interesting like idea to show like him commemorating the other expeditioners that went on the journey with him. Those are his frost grenades, by the way. I know obviously the icon for it is like a simple frag grenade, but yeah, no, those are what his actual frost grenades look like. They kind of look like sort of canisters in a sense. But yeah, this giant glowing rock, I'm not sure what to make of it, but it does look kind of cool. I'm not really sure what this creature is on the front of it. Like, that's quite clearly something, right? I have no idea what that could be. Kind of looks like a butterfly or a moth or something. There's a few moths that are kind of linked with rebirth, so if that is like a sort of scary moth creature, that'd be a cool little detail. But yeah, I think Kelvin's design is pretty good, though it is kind of partially sort of a relic of the past. I will mention his gun's kind of a bit lackluster design-wise. It kind of looks a bit odd. I don't even really know what his gun is. How does it even shoot, like, ice blasts out of it? I have no clue. But yeah, his gun's a bit... I feel like he could do with more varied colors, because he is literally just white and blue. Like, his entire outfit is just this same shade of sort of blue. I mean, it gets darker the further it goes up, but... And his gun being blue as well is kind of like... There's a lot of blue. I know why, but there is a lot of blue here. Maybe we could diverse it up with the colors, maybe make his trousers like... I don't know, if they want to keep to the blue thing, just don't make it the same shades. Like, make his trousers darker or make his jacket darker. I don't know, he could do with a bit of contrast, per se. He's also very ginger. He's very ginger. And he's got like white strands on the side of his head and blah blah blah. Yeah, Kelvin's design, I feel like I can't wait to see what his sort of updated model would look like. As I've mentioned many a times, a lot of these characters have gotten updated models like Ivy and, you know, Lash and blah blah blah. Funny enough, he's actually sandwiched between like a bunch of characters who recently got their models updated. Ivy, Lady Guy, Slash. Yeah, Kelvin's just kind of sat here in the middle of them. What a poor sod. But yeah, I like Kelvin's design. It's fun enough. Can't wait to see if they change it or update it in some way, because he is, as I said, still got the same face as his Neon Prime design, which is a relic of the past to say the least. But with all of that said, we are now at the end of the video. Like, comment, and subscribe if you feel so inclined, or if you enjoyed it up to this point in the video. Yeah, same thing. You understand what I mean. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, whether that be a good evening, afternoon, morning, etc. And the next entry in this series will be on a character that I would argue is probably one of the faces of this game. I definitely think that she is one of the faces of this game, alongside someone like Abrams, which, funny enough, they do actually have a connection, and I'm sure to mention that tomorrow. But the object of obsession of our next video will be none other than the woman who sold her soul for eternal youth, that being Lady Geist.